Next thing we're going to learn about is the planets, or planetary rulers, known as the grahas. Graha means to seize or grasp. We're going to learn about the same planets referred to in Western astrology as the Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, etc. But we're going to learn about their spiritual names. The reason being is because it is those Sanskrit names that contain the power behind it, or the knowledge behind those planets. So as we get accustomed to learning and pronouncing those Sanskrit names, the more we'll be able to understand and imbibe their knowledge. So try to get used to it. For now, we can refer to them as just the Western names, but you'll hear me interchangeably use them. So the sun is known as Surya, the moon, Soma, the Mars, Mangala, Mercury, Buddha, Jupiter is Guru, Venus is Shukra, Saturn is Shani, the north node of the moon is known as Rahu, and the south node of the moon is known as Ketu. There's certain things we need to understand about the grahas. Grahas are not spheres, objects, gases, or masses. So the grahas are not the planets in our solar system. Those planets in the solar system of the same name, like the Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, etc., are just transmitters of that knowledge, so to speak. And when I say that, it's not exactly the way it happens, but our minds need to understand things in a certain way right now. So let's just look at them as the Akashic, like storage or computers in a sense, that are storing information. The controllers or administrators of those computers are the grahas, and the grahas are millions of miles away. So the actual energies that control these planets are not the planets themselves. Grahas are the controllers of the planets. The grahas are responsible for dispersing our karmas, and the karmas are dispersed through the planets. That's how it works. The grahas are intermediaries between samsara and moksha. So the purpose of the planets is to help us to attain some sort of spiritual liberation, to be self-realized. That's another word for it. As we travel throughout time, we are reborn over and over again. The planets themselves store that information that we've accumulated over many lifetimes. That information is transferred to our subtle body at birth, and they become the karmas that we have to work with. Now, I'm oversimplifying all this, but just to give you a general idea of how it works. So grahas can either help us or hinder a chart. In other words, they can have benefic or malefic influence. Benefic means good influence, and malefic means negative, or you could say bad influence. But in these realms, the spiritual realms, all things are absolute. So good and bad don't have a dualistic kind of meaning. A good thing happening to a person could mean something negative. They call that too much of a good thing. For example, if a person loves chocolate ice cream and they eat chocolate ice cream every day, it's going to ruin their health. You can call that, they're enjoying themselves and they have it has a benefic influence, or happy. It makes them feel happy. But then they get fat or they get sick. Eat too much ice cream, you'll throw up. And a malefic influence, something that's seemingly bad for you, like not bad for you, but something that's seemingly negative, like a restriction, so to speak, some kind of restriction in your life. So that restriction could be, for example, there's a shortage of chocolate ice cream, and you can't get any chocolate ice cream, but you love it so much. You would consider that negative. In essence, it's helping your health by not eating the ice cream. So you can call that negative effect turning into good, something positive. So try not to get hung up on good and bad and positive and negative. The grahas seemingly have those effects, but as we'll find out, sometimes the opposite effect will happen. The positive, the negative are there to help balance us. When we're examining charts, we'll be able to see this balancing energy there. So we talked about before how the planets are not located in our solar system, except for there's actually a couple which are exceptions. So if you see this picture on the screen, you can see the grahas themselves have their own realms, and those realms exist millions of miles above the Earth, above our solar system. So far away, would have to travel at the speed of mind to get there. Planets that are located within our solar system that have grahas living on them or attached to them are the Sun and Rahu. You could say Ketu also, but Ketu doesn't really have a graha attached to it. But the Sun is a spiritual planet. The Sun, what does the Sun represent? The Sun represents spirit, represents light. That's one of the main characteristics of the Sun. It is light. Of course, what does the Sun do? The Sun lights up the sky. Another characteristic of the Sun is heat. So the Sun warms the Earth. Without the Sun, there is no life. Within the realm of the Sun exists Surya. They call him Surya Narayan. He is a avatar of Lord Vishnu, a very, very high avatar. So within our solar system, we're very fortunate that we have Surya living right here to give his love and his energy and his light to planet Earth. Without Surya, without light, and that's spiritual light also, and we also contain that spiritual light. That's why we're able to move, talk, and breathe and function on the Earth. So we contain a spark of that light, and that light emanates from Surya Narayan. You may wonder how anybody can live on the Sun. Well, just like on Earth, what is our body composed of? Everything on the Earth is composed of carbon. All the elements on Earth are carbon. We're considered carbon-based beings on the Earth. So our bodies are called Earth bodies, and we can live and exist on the Earth. So what would you think some personality or some being on the Sun, what kind of body they would need to live there? And you may have guessed by now, their bodies are made of fire, the fire element. So that's how they exist there. Now you think, oh, they must be burning up. No, it's not like that. It doesn't work like that. Their bodies may be composed of fire, but just like we're living here in Earth bodies, our bodies don't look like dirt. They're like this. This is our body, but it's made of the same element. So in the same way, in the Sun, or on the Sun, the beings or the entities that live there under rulership of Surya have bodies that are similar to ours, but they're composed of the fire element, and ours are composed of the earth element. And we'll talk more about elements. Each planet has its own element. So on the screen, again, you see the different planets. You have Soma as the moon, Shukra as Venus, Buddha as Mercury, Mangala as Mars, Brihaspati as Jupiter, and Shani as Saturn. And then the topmost abode of Lord Vishnu, which is actually in our universe too. It's not only in Vaikuntha, but Vishnu, where Vishnu has an abode that's considered completely spiritual abode in our universe. And they call that also Dhruva Loka. If you were to trace it out and be able to see it with your eyes, which we can't, we will never be able to see this with our material eyes that are made of the earthly elements. But you can see it's 19,200,000 miles. These are ways that our human mind can grasp things. It may not be exactly like this, but it just gives you an idea. So 19 million miles above Shani. Shani, as Saturn, is 1,600,000 miles above Brihaspati, or Jupiter. Now these are the spiritual planets. These are not the ones within our solar system. So when I refer to Shani in our lessons, I will probably just call him Saturn. It's easier for our minds to grasp that. I'll use it interchangeably, like I said, but this is just to give you an idea of that Saturn energy. These are all energetic beings. That Jupiter energy that Brihaspati exudes. Martian energy, or Mars, or Mangala. Mercurial energy from Buddha. Buddha, what does Buddha mean? I'm sure you've all heard of the avatar Buddha in the Buddhist religion. That word Buddha means intelligence, or buddhi. So those that are born under the sign of Gemini and the sign of Virgo, their ruling planet is Buddha. Gemini and Virgo are known for having a certain kind of acute intelligence. It doesn't mean that none of the other signs are intelligent. We can see that in the chart. We can see that by the mercurial influence to those signs and planets. But Gemini and Virgo, they kind of specialize in those areas. And at the same time, it doesn't mean that a Gemini or a Virgo is acting very smart either. But there's still that Mercury, that Buddha, that Buddhi is ruling the house where their sun is located. So there's a lot of potential for intelligence there. Certain types of intelligence too. It's not just that they're very intelligent in mathematics. They may be the more a communicative type. They can communicate well, possibly. So there's more to this than meets the eye, so we can't pass a judgment. So one rule of Vedic astrology is to never take anything out of context and don't judge a planet on its own. You'll hear some astrologers say, oh, he's a Gemini, he's a Taurus, he's a Sagittarius, so therefore he's like this. Sure, they may have certain qualities in that regard, but we just don't take one planet and ascribe it to a person and then say that person is like that. There's many, many more factors that we have to think about and that will come into play. So we'll move on. There's Shukra and Soma. And we notice here this blue dot down the bottom here next to the sun, that is Rahu, or the north node of the moon.